Brought to you by...
So, after the last episode of Bite Size Reviews, I went out looking for some of those creepy entity-based shorts that had a little more substance to them. I wanted to find some filmmakers who were doing some unique things with these core concepts, to prove that there are some people out there who are trying to create something interesting, and that breaks the mold in some small way. And wouldn't you know it, I managed to find a few that fit the bill. Hello friends, and welcome back to Bite Size Reviews. Today we kick things off with an intrusion, a break in the signal. Many of you, I'm sure, remember back to your childhoods, when if you stayed up late enough, your local broadcast station would come to a close, and they would perform tests of their systems. Well, unfortunately for you, directed and edited by Seth Denton Hughes, this little terror tale was made over the course of a weekend, as the filmmaker says, in order to challenge himself, and centers around a young college student who finds himself in lockdown during an unknown paranormal event that is sweeping the globe. We open strong on the title, as it flashes across a screen as part of the emergency broadcast system. We are all familiar with this, coming up on our screens during the years of cable television, when we would either fall asleep in front of the TV or stay up too late watching monster movies. The long, slow zoom out from this opening screen really hammers in the dread of the unknown threat that our protagonist will be facing throughout this little narrative. The one place that this one seems to suffer the most is in the audio. All dialogue sounds as if it was recorded directly through the onboard camera mic, and has been mixed very low. The majority of this one utilizes its sound design to help build the tension of the looming threat. The little music that is noticeable throughout this one is utilized sparingly, mostly in moments of heightened tension, jump scare scenes. This definitely looks like it was a short shot by college students in their dorms. The visual presentation of this one is very strong, using a combined effort of well-framed and simple cinematography techniques and interesting editing choices to better establish our protagonist, the setting, and his situation. Most of the lighting throughout this one seems like it was from natural sources, like windows and overhead fixtures. However, the filmmakers do get creative toward the end of the film for the big creature reveal. The creature itself is wisely kept obscured from sight, shrouded mostly in shadow, which I actually love because it keeps that element of the unknown. Building on the concept of this unfathomable paranormal threat that is overtaking the world. The concept sort of reminded me of something like the classic J-horror Pulse. I'm gonna give This Is Not a Test a B. While this one isn't the most striking piece I've ever seen, and does suffer a bit from the problem we had with all of last week's films, this one made a few unique choices that actually helped boost its simple narrative to a more enjoyable level. Even just the simple choice of setting the film during some sort of paranormal event gave it a little more spice that otherwise wouldn't have been there, which I very much appreciate. Next in the docket, we follow a woman recovering from eye surgery, who starts to imagine she sees an ominous figure waiting behind everyone she encounters. Slowly she begins to wonder what also might be hiding behind her. Directed by Gavin Williams and Mark Ladard, Behind You premiered in Screamfest 2021 in Los Angeles. I love the early moments of this film, as we are introduced to the world through our protagonist's untrustworthy eyes. The kaleidoscopic effects utilized throughout this film to showcase her visual distortion was a creative choice that really unsettles you within her situation. I immediately fell in love with this concept of this dark, near formless shadow creeping out from behind people. that only our protagonist can see through her distorted vision. The filmmakers utilize shallow depth of field in extraordinary ways throughout this experience, placing looming shadows and creeping figures deep in the blur of soft focus, to create this ever-present threat that is nearly always lurking behind our protagonist. The performances throughout this one are strong, especially by our protagonist herself, played beautifully by Michelle Bailey. She delivers on this high-strung and tormented character, selling the experience of something she cannot hope to explain. Wisely, this one never shows us what is following her in any great detail, because not knowing makes it all the more terrifying of an idea. Me being the nosy little bastard that I am, I did pause and look a little deeper, to see that the entity clearly looks to be one of those creepy skin-tight bodysuit costumes that are a dime a dozen these days, which honestly makes me a little more glad that they never linger on it. This one is very effective in its choices, masking the horrors of what this woman is experiencing beyond the veil of obscurity. I honestly have to give Behind You an A+. Now, this last one is going to get a little weird, but well worth it. During a deadly home invasion, a terrified woman discovers she has an unexpected power. Directed and written by Jeremy Shipp, Hold Your Breath had its premiere at Screamfest in New Orleans of 2021. This one dropped us in on a young woman asleep in her bed before she is startled awake by something in her home. Immediately, the first thing that becomes clear is that the filmmakers took the time to light this one, drenching us in the soft blue of night that basically encompasses the entire short. The filmmaker here makes great use of the moving camera, keeping almost every single shot in some form of motion, which honestly helps it stand apart from most other horror shorts. A lot of these films keep the camera completely locked off for a majority of the experience. This one also keeps us nice and close to the action, utilizing extreme close-ups in very cool ways, to give us this more intense claustrophobic feeling throughout. But the thing that helps this one stand apart is the hold your breath ability, that our protagonist just discovers that she has. It gave this one a pretty unique twist on an otherwise generic home invasion story, and I do feel that the filmmakers utilized the concept in a pretty stripped down but creative way. They boosted it up with great sound design that hangs mostly on its tension-fueled score, which builds throughout each passing moment, and aids the narrative, possibly too strongly at times, in keeping that dread building from start to finish. I'm gonna give Hold Your Breath a B+. This one did have elements that made it feel a little too much like a superhero origin story, but at the same time didn't stray too far from its horror or thriller roots. I definitely think it's worth checking out. But that's going to bring this episode to an end. If you enjoyed this video, please consider checking out more of our bite-sized reviews in the future. And if you want to help support the channel, please consider finding us on Patreon, where you can get yourself some cool little rewards, as well as some exclusive content just for our supporters. Until next time, stay safe, and thank you for watching.